came in the wrong end and the traffic was bad. And but we're here outside Embankment Station, and I just seen Faze here, the Green Party. We were there last week.
Yeah, hello. This is a very important protest because I think the right-wing media and others were hoping that the Palestine issue would somehow slip away, as if we'll start forgetting about the genocide that's happening just because our leading politicians don't want to talk about that. So that's why I think all of us are here to keep reminding people that we are witnessing a genocide that our government is participating in and is arming and funding.
All right, so look, we've got Jenny from Camden. She's come and said hello to me. She recognised me, which is very humbling.
I'm here because I care. I'm here because I'm a human being. I'm here because my family was Jewish and I don't like what I am seeing.
One of the things that we're talking about is this it's a party. They're talking about a new party of the left. What do you think about that? Does it have to have Jeremy Corbyn in it? Or what do you think its chances are of a new party? We've got a lot of parties already, haven't we?
I think that it is time that actually there was an alternative on the left. We need it. We are all absolutely fed up with Starmer and the Labour Party. I think they have spent force. But there's so much that we need to resist, that we need to bring the left together, because at the moment I'm afraid the left is all over the place. Down, down with occupation. 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 Down, down with occupation.
Probably my 5th or 6th march that I've been on, and I think it's really important because I'm saying that this is not being done in their name.
God, I'm really. God, I could do with a drink. It's really thirsty work carrying this banner. What am I going to do? I'll take one of these. Look at that. You're looking at a map of Palestine from the Times Atlas of 1895, and this confirms there was a place called Palestine in 1895, and it wasn't an empty place. My address is tootingbeck@hotmail.com. If you want the e-file to print it off yourself, you're very welcome. Where's Israel on this map? Well, there isn't, and you can't buy a map of Israel. Israel doesn't publish maps. It's a curiosity about the place. It's the only country in the world that doesn't draw its boundaries.
Does it not?
No, you can't buy a map of Israel. I want to buy a map of it. Excuse me, I want to buy a map of Israel. Do you know where I can get a hold of one? No. It's impossible. We've got an undertaker here. Where do you normally find them? But we've got one here at the protest that's commemorating was the word, the Nakba. How many protests do you go to?
I've been to every one, but I got arrested in May last year, on the 19th of May, and the police kept my coffin for nearly 7 months, and my bail conditions were I couldn't go to any of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign marches, so I missed a few of those. Then they dropped the bail conditions, and then finally the CPS, after a few months, Crown Prosecution Service, said that there were no further actioning me. All I was doing was using my right freedom of speech and freedom of protest. All right, it's to show that I oppose the genocide and our government's 100% complicity in the genocide. All right, and it just staggers me. And it's moral depravity. It's the best definition of moral depravity I've ever read. It's what this government is doing, what Starmer is doing. But then what can one expect? Starmer said, "I am a Zionist without qualification." That was his quote. "I am a Zionist without qualification." So there are no red lines for the Zionists. They can do what they want. They can ethnically cleanse Gaza and the West Bank, murder, rape, torture, do whatever they want, and Starmer will support them 100%. It's a disgrace that man is in politics, let alone holds the highest office in this country. It's an absolute disgrace, a moral disgrace to this country.
Where did you get the idea for the coffin?
I've had this coffin for a few years, and I made this up after October 23, and it's got 3 tragedies written on it. The first one is the Warsaw Ghetto Genocide, 1943, Gaza Ghetto Genocide, 2023, and then Marek Edelman, his name, and his quote, "To be a Jew means to be always with the oppressed, never with the oppressors." And Marek Edelman was one of the leaders of the Warsaw Ghetto uprising in 43. There was Mordecai Anielewicz. They were only in the early 20s. Mordecai Anielewicz was killed. Marek Edelman escaped, going down into the sewers of Warsaw. He had very good contacts with the Polish underground. He then took part in the Warsaw Uprising in 44, survived that, survived the war, which is a miracle in itself, all right, as a Polish Jew. And then he became a renowned cardiologist in Poland, highly respected and mourned nationally when he died. And he was an anti-Zionist. He went over to Israel a few times and said it doesn't have a right to exist, this is Palestine. All right, so he's persona non grata in Palestine, but a great hero. And I was told by a Polish doctor that some of his practices that he introduced as a cardiologist are still being used to this day. January of last year, the police hauled me over and said that someone accused me of anti-Semitism on the grounds of what was written there. It's the same thing that's been written there since October 23, and so it's obviously a lie. Wasted 40 or 45 minutes of my time. I did the whole march, got to Whitehall. It's when they pounced on me, bodily lifting me up and stuff. But I managed to chat to them for about 45 minutes, and then, interestingly enough, the policeman who I seemed to be in charge, he was telling to me that he got in touch with his headquarters, told him what was written on the side of the coffin, and then we were chatting, and he was saying, well, we're just waiting to hear what verdict they come up with. And then he told me, he said, well, as far as I'm concerned, it's not anti-Semitic. You're merely drawing a parallel between what happened in 1943 and what's happening now in 2023. And I said, of course, that's it. Yeah, it's a genocide in both cases, and it's a tragedy. And then a few minutes later, I say about 40, 45 minutes, he got a call back from his headquarters, and they said it was his call. He had to decide, and he said, well, I've already said it's not anti-Semitic. No, please, you're free to go. The worst thing about it is because they manhandled me and everything, a crowd formed instantly shouting, let him go, let him go. And one old lady, I think, in her 80s, was thrown over and broke her hip. And then last I heard, she was being charged with obstructing police, and I spoke to her lawyer and said I'm very happy to testify should the case come to court. But I haven't been contacted since, so obviously I think the police have dropped the charges.
We will never let you die! We will never let you die!
Lately we've decided to sing near the end of the march, which is better because by then the energy is dissipated a bit and we have a better chance of being heard. And also it's usually spread out a bit and there are less dense clumps in between the marchers. So I carefully placed us at the end of the Strand, the junction of Strand and Northumberland Avenue, so that we would meet the march as it neared the end, and people would hear us. And the police told us we couldn't be there. So they moved us down here, but the march has gone, so there's no point being here.
So you're determined to sing?
Absolutely. No one is going to stop us from singing, but unfortunately, the police are taking the letter of the law past the letter of the law. And there was quite a threat, which is, if you do not agree with me, you are not complying, and you know the consequences of not complying with the law that we are telling you, section this and section that. If you refuse and try and sing here, we will have to take action.
Stop genocide! 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 Stop genocide!
Farida's here, and she's here. I've seen her so many times at the protest, and she's always carrying the body, effectively, of children of Gaza in her hands, and there's a protest sign here. Can you tell us how long you've been doing these protests?
We've been coming since the beginning, so since October 2023, and the main reason is we're just tired of seeing children being blown to bits and pieces, children left without limbs, moms with broken hearts, children that are orphaned, and this isn't a war on Hamas or anything like that. It's a war on children. I've got 4 kids.
And is that partly the idea of them being the same?
Yeah, as a mother, you absolutely empathize with you can empathize with what's going on there. I put my mom in myself into those moms' positions. But even then, you don't even need to be a mom, you don't even need to be Muslim, you don't need to be Palestinian, you just need to be human to realize that what's going on is just wrong. And it needs to end. I just hope that all our marches, all our protests, all our prayers will bring it to an end soon. I love to see the day that there is justice when it comes to Palestine.
So she just lies, but she's using something.
Come and get your Gaza Cola here, people. Palestinian-owned, apartheid-free cola. All profits go towards rebuilding Dignity Hospital in northern Gaza. Get your Gaza Cola here.
Well, Coca-Cola's funding the flipping genocide. I mean, if you drink Coca-Cola, you've got to be thinking about it a bit, what you're doing. And it's not that good, is it? I mean, what's your teeth, isn't it? Even the diet one. And it gives you hemorrhoids, diet one.
Thank you for supporting the rebuilding
Thank you.
of Dignity Hospital in northern Gaza, sir.
They've got diet Gaza Cola and full fat Gaza Cola. And obviously me being worrying about my weight and all that stuff, I'm going for the diet one. The cameraman here, he needs a drink. He's going for the full fat.
It's Palestinian owned and all profits go towards rebuilding Dignity Hospital in northern Gaza. Check us out online, Gaza Cola.
Israel must be compelled to respect human rights. I visited Palestine last year as part of an international trade union group, and I spoke to public service workers from the Jenin refugee camp, and he told me his dream was for a night where he didn't worry about Israeli soldiers raiding the camp, and for a small patch of ground where he could play safely with his children. Such modest dreams, but so out of his reach. So I say to the Labour government today, you've already pledged to recognise Palestine. So what's holding you back?
She's a mate of Starmer.
As Trump threatens his so-called freedom
zone, she knew Starmer was on the genocide before the election. She supported Starmer during the election, and she's talking about stop arming Israel. She's part of the problem. She's making out she's against it. It's a load of bollocks.
To recognise Palestine and to force Israel into peace. Thank you.
Let this sink in. In just 3 months under Labour, more military equipment was licensed for export to Israel than the Tories approved in an entire 3 years. This is not just complicity, this is collaboration. And we're treating the Health Secretary, who is focused on silencing NHS workers who dare to show solidarity, banning shows of support against genocide. What an embarrassment in a cheap suit. And I have a message for London Mayor Sadiq Khan. You may have made a few murmurs on Gaza, but you have not said near enough for what is unfolding. And we heard you on LBC this week as you dodged and diverted your way out of using the word genocide. You've made it clear. You've made it clear. Loyalty to your party and your position comes before honesty and integrity. You have action, but it begins by spending serious political capital and courage. So do it now. And then there's the Arab state who are as complicit as the West. Your collective wealth is meaningless if you're going to sell your brothers and sisters for a measly price. Shame on Saudi Arabia, on the UAE. Shame on Egypt, on all the Arab Zionists.
Even as they try to silence us, we grow louder, louder. Even as they try to intimidate us, we grow bigger and larger. You are an avalanche. You are an avalanche. You are the biggest and the longest justice movement in this century, perhaps in all time. We are a global movement. We are united. The dial is shifting. The tide is shifting. They cannot ignore us. They will not ignore us. And you will prevail. And we will prevail. We must prevail. We will end the genocide. We will end the genocide. We will rebuild Palestine. We must prevail to achieve freedom. My friends, for Palestine and for all, we cannot be stopped. We will not be stopped. We will never give up. You will never give up until a free.
Well, it's a real honor to be here today. It's a real honor to be with 500,000 people from the UK that are saying no to Israel, no to the genocide. I represent the Gaza Freedom Flotilla that's been sailing boats since 2008. We've sailed 35 boats in solidarity with the people of Gaza. Solidarity with those people that have been bombed and bombed and bombed since forever. I just came from Malta, where the Israeli military bombed our ship, the Conscience of the world, a ship that was carrying 40 people that were going to sail toward Gaza to try to end the illegal naval blockade, to say no to the genocide. And so they bombed. The Israeli military bombed our ship in international waters in a European port. So it just underscores more and more what the Israelis are able to do and get away with it. The impunity they have from America, from the United States, from the UK, where not one nation is standing up to say no to the Israelis, no to the genocide, stop the killing, stop the killing. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
In all my years on this planet, I have never been so ashamed of Jews who parrot Israel's lies, denying its responsibility for multiple war crimes and breaches of international law, throwing all the blame for tens of thousands of Palestinian deaths onto Hamas. At last, amid images of starving infants, breaches are appearing even within the Jewish Zionist establishment. 36 of the 300 members of the Board of Deputies of British Jews have publicly dissociated themselves from Israel's decision to break the ceasefire and block all food and humanitarian aid from entering Gaza. Such small shifts are welcome, but the Board of Deputies continues to defend the Israeli state and to declare that those who protest against the genocide, that's you, are a threat to British Jews and to public order. These completely unfounded charges are being used by the British state to justify repressive policing of demonstrations and the use of counter-terror laws to intimidate journalists and activists. Following the mass arrests here on January the 18th, the Jewish bloc formed a delegation to meet the Metropolitan Police. To date, we are still being denied the chance to be heard. The Met needs to understand that large and growing numbers of Jews in Britain and around the world are horrified by Israel's cruelty towards Palestinians, flouting every tenet of Jewish ethics.
Arms sales were not stopped by the British government. We discover that even at the time David Lammy said they were suspending 30 arms licenses, the sales to Israel actually went up during that period. Flights from RAF Akrotiri have continued and increasing all the time. And the parts supplied to the F-35 jets. Eventually, under pressure, the government said they were not going to supply them directly to Israel. But this week, in answer to a question from me, the Foreign Office Minister, Hamish Faulkner, admitted that supplying parts into the global supply chain means they end up in Israel for those planes to bomb and destroy Gaza. And so the pressure goes on and on. The International Court of Justice made its views known. The International Criminal Court made its views known. Increasingly, UN member states and the Hague Group and others have made their views known. And it's quite simple. It goes like this. If you know a genocide is taking place and you supply arms to allow that genocide to continue, you are also complicit in that genocide. And so we say to every country around the world, how are you going to be remembered during the most desperate and darkest days for the Palestinian people since the original Nakba, the Nakba that's now going on? Did you stand by and do nothing? Did you stand by and allow arms to be sold? Did you stand by and watch children starve to death on live television? Or did you intervene and do something about it? I welcome the 6 EU member states that made a statement this morning, which is a great improvement on what's gone on before. I welcome all those others that are speaking out. But we demand our government here does the same. If you believe in human rights and believe in international law, then don't just say so, do so. Stop the arms supplies and recognize the state of Palestine. But our media are also to be challenged on this. Many of the global media have been very effective at covering the court cases and covering the demonstrations. Many of the British media have been missing. And so, the Independent Alliance group of MPs this week wrote a short guide on how to ask questions about genocide and gave a copy of our guide to every single one of the parliamentary lobbyists for every one of the news channels so they can understand that there is a job for them to do as well. The children of Gaza suffer most abominably. The children of Gaza being brought up amongst rubble, seeing their mates die and looking forward to nothing at the moment other than thirst and hunger and probably a very early death as they're driven out of Gaza into Egypt. We have to do all we can. Speak up, shout out, demand, make as much noise and as much presence as you possibly can everywhere to achieve the end we want, which is the liberation of the Palestinian people, an end to the occupation of Gaza and of the West Bank and of the right of return of Palestinian refugees around the world. Now, you've heard me on previous occasions call for an inquiry into what the British government has been doing, how its policies were developed, what advice was taken, and what they were trying to do. Well, I've taken it a stage further. On June the 4th, I'm introducing a private member's bill into Parliament to call for an independent public inquiry into all aspects of the policy in relation to arms supplies, recognition and the desperate humanitarian needs of the Palestinian people. We, on this day of all days, the day of Nakba, now demand immediately the withdrawal of the Israeli forces from Gaza and the West Bank, and the right of the Palestinian people to live in their peace and their justice in their own land. Carry on campaigning as long as it takes. Thank you.